videos and pictures I saw from back home are something I never saw before. In the next few days, I will get back to Israel and connect back to my unit and continue the fight with them. I just need to drop everything and go. But I prefer to protect my people, my brother in arms, and my country, basically. Even if I live in Canada and I do business in Canada, I still see Israel as my country.
Hard as it might be, we need to try and park our realism and pessimism, put it aside. Our fighters need our optimism. Positive energy begets positive energy.
The atrocities that we saw over the past 4 days were committed by Hamas, which is recognized by Canada, the United States, and other Western governments as a terrorist organization. Hamas is fighting for the elimination of Israel. It states this in its charter. Hamas actually wants to wipe Israel off the map and wants to ethnically cleanse Israel of Jews. So I understand why people would want to express solidarity with the Palestinian people. There's nothing wrong with that. There is something wrong, though, with condoning the brutal rape and murder of men, women, and children who are innocent civilians.
A massive craft beer festival in Windsor has been canceled in favor of something smaller. And similar stories are happening across North America as beer sales have declined over recent years. The CBC's Dalton Chen looks at the popularity of hobby IPAs and what appears to be a shift in public taste.
At its peak, the Windsor Craft Beer Festival attracted upwards of 4,000 people to Willestead Park, all of them thirsty for artisanal suds. Almost a decade later, that once popular event has been canceled, and organizer Windsor Eats is serving up a smaller-scale version instead. The new Fall Beer and Cider Festival on Erie Street East will have a capacity of about 400. That's only a tenth the size of what was originally planned.
We know that disposable income, with inflation as it is right now, isn't readily available for a lot of people, and they're watching what they're spending. But even really across the board and across North America, beer festivals have really been going through a transformation where you've seen major North American beer festivals pulling the plug.
Brew Microbrewery in Essex has been a participant in the Windsor Craft Beer Festival since 2014. One of the company's owners says they recognize tastes are changing.
Kind of feels a little bit like the end of an era. We get to see some of the LCBO stats and some of the internal numbers, and really the sales trends have been down for craft beer at the retail market. So that's why, as a company, we decided to get into a growth beverage category, which is wine coolers and wine beverages.
Shocking as it may sound, Canadian beer sales in general have been declining for decades. A Stats Canada release earlier this year said the amount of beer sold per person from 2021 to 2022 reached an all-time low. Meanwhile, there's been growth in sales of coolers, spirits, and cider. Despite such shifting trends, Chodoli believes there's always going to be people who are passionate about craft beer.
I don't think it's necessarily lost its hipness or its cachet, just that there's a lot more being offered in the market right now for people to enjoy.
Advance ticket sales for the Windsor Craft Beer Festival have been refunded. Tickets for the smaller Fall Beer and Cider Festival are now available. Dalton Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
A tourism agency is encouraging the region's Black community to help bring tourism and business to life. That announcement made in Windsor earlier today.
Programs go out, but the community doesn't always trust government programs and doesn't always engage. And so to see a program like this come out specifically for the Black community by an organization that I've worked with already, have seen behind the scenes and understand that it's not just lip service, but it's actually a program that's going to work, and have been part of a success story. To see it now go from like just this one success story to an actual program, and the opportunity is going to be so much bigger for so many more people, I think is exciting.
The Ontario Tourism and Innovation Lab has teamed up with partners to launch the Ontario's Southwest Black Tourism Spark program. It just launched today, and they're looking for applicants across southwestern Ontario. In addition to mentorships, selected recipients will receive $3,000 in seed funding and $2,000 in tech adoption support. Black entrepreneur, business owners, and nonprofit organizations are being encouraged to apply before November 22nd. It's still unclear as to how a new Hockey Canada policy will impact local players. A week ago, the national governing body of ice and sledge hockey said minor players would have to wear a base layer of clothing under their equipment in the dressing room. CBC Windsor reached out to local minor hockey associations in the region. The CBC's TJ Deer has some reaction.
The local hockey season is already underway, but minor hockey players have to adjust to new directives from Canada's highest hockey body. The updated policy states that players must now wear minimum attire at all times in a dressing room or in dressing environments where more than one participant is present. This means that participants should arrive at the rink wearing a base layer, such as shorts and a t-shirt, compression shorts and shirt, or a sports bra. A player arriving at the rink that's not wearing their base layer can use a private space to put it on before returning to their team's dressing room. When asked about making the policy mandatory in Ontario, OHF Executive Director Philip McKee said they're working with Hockey Canada to address the requirements and differences of the two policies, and further information will come out as we complete this task. Their current policy only encourages players to wear a base layer.
But if there's ever a request of accommodation required, and that has to be kept confidential, then you automatically pretty much go to the minimum attire requirements, so that all the individuals can be in the dressing room. And how you get to that point is dealt with by each team.
CBC News reached out to 7 minor hockey associations in Windsor-Essex to get their thoughts on the new rules. 2 didn't respond, 1 was unable to be interviewed, and 3 of them declined an interview, issuing statements instead. The Windsor Minor Hockey Association said they don't have any clear reasoning from Hockey Canada or the Ontario Minor Hockey Association as to why this rule was needed, and we are struggling to understand how the rule can be enforced. The president of the Riverside Minor Hockey Association said since the OMHA or the Ontario Hockey Federation has not officially communicated their adaptation of the policy, I cannot speak to any facet of this as of yet. Bell Rivers Minor Hockey Association's president said the OMHA has not released any information regarding this policy, therefore I have no comment to this policy at this time. Only the Amherstburg Minor Hockey Association spoke about it, and their president doesn't believe anything new is needed.
This hasn't been something necessarily that we've needed to address as an association or do anything outside of the normal practices that we follow. Or the Libero Center in Amherstburg set up already with a bathroom with a stall door in every dressing room that is in the facility. So accommodations are already available to players that want to utilize those accommodations.
The OHF says it will be providing an updated dressing room policy early next week. TJ Deer, CBC News, Windsor.
There are updated guidelines for the NHL surrounding theme nights. Players are now banned from using pride tape and other themed tapes on their sticks. CBC's Cameron McIntosh explains what's behind the change and why some say it's a step backwards.
A symbol of inclusivity now benched, it appears, for good. Rainbow-colored stick tape, pride tape.
Very disappointing to hear this news coming from the NHL.
Chris Wells is co-founder of Pride Tape. Invented, he says, to promote inclusion. It was used on occasion on all 32 NHL teams.
It's never been forced. It's just been available for players to signal their support without having to say any words.
Pride Tape was first used by the Edmonton Oilers and counts the game's biggest name among its advocates.
Is it something that I'd like to see put back into place one day? Certainly.
It stems from an announcement last June. The NHL decided to discontinue the use of themed warm-up jerseys after a handful of players refused to wear pride jerseys, some citing religious and cultural objections.
That's just become more of a distraction from really the essence of what the purpose of these nights are.
It's not just pride tape. Other on-ice displays like pink tape or pink hockey sticks for cancer initiatives or camouflage tape in support of military nights also won't continue.
There's been a lot of collateral damage in this discussion.
David Palumbo is with You Can Play, dedicated to LGBTQ+ inclusion in sport.
Unfortunately, I can't sit here and tell you that, a lot of this is because someone has expressed concern over using camo tape to express support for military families or refuses to wear a Hockey Fights Cancer jersey.
Many teams will still go ahead with their Pride Nights. Winnipeg's game will go next month.
The commitment, from an organization standpoint is we'll do everything we possibly can.
The NHL didn't respond to a request for comment, but has said many times in the past that it supports diversity and inclusion. Its players just won't be showing it on the ice. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
In an effort to keep its controversial pronoun policy in schools, the government of Saskatchewan has started the process to invoke the Constitution's notwithstanding clause. The provincial policy forces teachers to tell parents if their child wants to go by a different name or pronoun, different from the policy in both the Catholic and public school board here in Windsor, Essex, where parents are not told about pronoun changes unless their child provides consent. CBC's Sam Sampson has more from the situation in Saskatchewan.
Everyone here says they want to protect children, but they disagree about whether Saskatchewan's school pronoun policy meets that goal. Most here oppose the requirement that teachers inform parents if their child under 16 wants to use a different name or pronoun. By recalling the Legislative Assembly early this week, Premier Scott Moe takes the first step to invoking the notwithstanding clause.
That is part of the charter, and it was put in place so that elected members in the future would be able to determine which of those rights ultimately would be in place moving forward. I'm not talking about children's rights. What we're talking about when a school division or a school will actually recognize a decision that the child has made.
Human rights groups say the policy is unconstitutional and will harm trans students. The policy itself is being challenged in court. If the notwithstanding clause is used, it will make any court decision moot, keeping the policy in classrooms.
And if he's willing to trample on the rights, the Charter of Rights of 16-year-olds who can't vote, what's coming next?
But the government has supporters as well.
We're parents. We have the right to know what's going on with our children. So Scott Moe is making the right decision right now and invoking this. He's had no choice.
The notwithstanding clause allows governments to override certain charter rights. In recent years, it's been used by provinces like never before.
The notwithstanding clause is in effect for a period of 5 years, at which time the legislature then makes a decision whether to re-invoke. If we're starting to have more use of the clause, we're going to see governments confront that issue.
The next step is for the bill and the notwithstanding clause to receive a first reading. That's expected tomorrow. From there, the government moves into a marathon debate, meaning it could be days before Saskatchewan parents, teachers, and students get answers. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
An 8-day Mural Festival is wrapping up locally. Downtown Windsor and Ford City gained several new public pieces of artwork as part of the Free for All Walls Festival. 66 artists from around the world were in the area working on these gorgeous murals. Take a look.
Yeah, we successfully completed 53 murals in 8 days with 66 artists. I'm super proud, and yeah, Windsor deserves it. Windsor really needs this right now. Show some inspiration and pick up some cans and practice. And we really want artists to, we want to set the bar here. And this is what you can do if you put some work in. And it doesn't take that much, but you got to put in the time.
Yeah, you'll go back and you just see the impact that it's had in the area, All of a sudden you see much more economy. And I think that that's very important. You see a lot more families and people that are actually want to be out in the streets, and being able to be in their own neighborhoods instead of feeling like they're prisoners in their neighborhood,
To quote one of our artists, Media, he says it really alters the ethos of the community. It says that it's more, and that these spaces are valuable, even though that they've been neglected for a while. And I mean, it doesn't take too much work. It takes some elbow grease and some planning, a little bit of money, and a community to change things. And so I brought in my community that I know from around the world, from my travels, to show them this community can build that here. And that's what we really want to try and do, is incorporate more local artists here next year. And we did try this year, and next year we're going to try even harder.
Well, if you want to get out and take a look at those beautiful murals, you might have to dodge a little rain. Our meteorologist Colette will break down when we'll see some dry patches and what may be a rainy week. That's coming up after the break. we have a pretty interesting looking sky out tonight with some sun finally peeking out of those clouds, because today it was pretty dark with that overcast weather.
Yeah, it really was. I think it was maybe billed as a slightly better day than it was, and I will take responsibility for that.
Perfect.
Yeah, we reached the high a few hours back. You know, our temperatures around the region around 15, 16, but it was overcast, and now it's sunny, but it's 12 degrees. So yeah, it took a little while to get rid of that cloud cover, and guess what? There's more to come. There are more to come in many different ways. So I'm going to kind of start off with the big picture. The one trough that had been so stubborn, we've been seeing that moving away, and a ridge through the Midwest. But what's important is this next trough that's developing, really a system that's going to go coast to coast. So it's come in on the west coast, and as it moves into the Rockies, developing into a Colorado low. So a strong storm system that to those areas in the Rockies could see 30 to 50 centimeters of snow, and also winds gusting 80 to 100 kilometers an hour out ahead of that, even some severe weather along that kind of border. And as the jet stream sort of levels out, it pulls it towards southern Ontario, but kind of just to the south. And that's where we're getting into that fine line. I do think most of southwestern Ontario will be into it and kind of cuts off around Lake Ontario. So just dealing with our current temperatures and how those are looking, I was mentioning that 12 degrees that we're seeing. The winds aren't much of a factor right now. They will be Friday night towards Saturday as that system will be approaching, which, by the way, that's kind of important, the timing. You know, it is more towards the weekend. Yes, there's some showery activity. Look for some patchy fog overnight tonight, but kind of the main boundary, the next thing that's coming in, tracks just a little bit sort of to the south of us. And as it does, it tags some cloud cover through, likely through the overnight, still some rain showers lingering into tomorrow morning. At least they'll be close by, so it will have that feel. And then I am thinking that the second half of the day on Thursday improves. It gives us a little bit of a break and some breathing room the rest of the afternoon, tomorrow and evening and overnight. And then Friday, that will be in anticipation of this next round that will be coming in, which is really more associated with that storm coming out of the Rockies. So bringing rain in as we go Friday night into Saturday, and some stronger winds will be coming in with it. So the first half of the weekend, not necessarily looking too pleasant. Overnight temperatures, I did mention some patchy fog developing, 3 to around 5 degrees. As that cloud cover rides a little bit further north, it may actually hold our temperature up a bit above that. 15 for tomorrow, second half of the day looking better. Then Friday, clouds thicken up again with that next system coming in. And this is what I'm really watching is for the situation on Saturday, and then hopefully breaking out of that again for the second half of that weekend.
Colette, that looks like good turkey soup weather for anyone who still has those Thanksgiving leftovers.
Yes, and I also made chili over the Thanksgiving weekend, so feel good for that too with this kind of weather.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that, Colette.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, coming up, we introduce you to a Halloween fanatic who's giving people pumpkin to talk about. Amazon is introducing new technology that's letting customers skip the checkout. But what you save in convenience, you may pay for in privacy. CBC's Nisha Patel looks at how it all works.
At this market, there are no checkouts, no cashiers, no lineups. Shoppers tap a credit or debit card at the gate, grab products, and go, with their card charged instantly. It's being rolled out at arenas in Calgary and Toronto.
They can get back to their seat really, really quickly and not miss out on anything.
Let's test it out. I scan. Win. I want some M&Ms. And that was 10 seconds. It's all using technology from Amazon. Cameras and sensors are everywhere. The system uses computers and artificial intelligence to process the data and track what customers buy.
So there's no facial recognition.
Definitely no facial recognition in a Just Walk Out store. We don't use any sort of biometrics.
Amazon says the system does collect information about purchases, then passes it off to the retailer.
We say, hey, store owner, here's a cart and a credit card that just got processed at your store. And then they own that information.
Other people are looking at what you're doing.
But this privacy expert says the convenience could come at a cost.
Ask for the details of what they're going to collect, how long they're going to retain it, things of that nature. And will they be sharing it with any other unauthorized third parties without your consent? Make them say no.
I checked out the store and realized I was the only one inside.
There are other stores going cashierless, like Aisle 24, which has locations across the country.
It's really going very fast, and we see a huge amount of invested money in that sector.
Consumers seem to be catching on.
I would love to use it. If it saves me time, I can get back to the game.
It sounds really convenient and effective. And it seems to be the way we're going, yeah?
We are tracked by using Google, by using Instagram and other social networks, so we already lost our privacy.
So grab and go could grow in the months ahead. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Calgary.
There are a lot of people who like to decorate for Halloween, and then there's Tim Perry. When it comes to marking the haunted holiday, he's rocking it.
It's what I live for, Halloween. It's the best.
Inspired by his favorite horror movie, House of a Thousand Corpses, Perry has spent 15 years creating the House of a Thousand Pumpkins. He hand carves the plastic gourds. By the time he's done this year, he expects to have nearly 1,400 pumpkins arranged on his front lawn. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.